Line management often lies to us. We have a manager, we are in a line, and we do what they tell us to do. But work and life is not like that. In our conversation with Professor Priscilla Dunk-West this week, we thought we would discuss goal setting in our working lives. How do we balance the requirements of others and our priorities, our needs, our responsibilities, and our aspirations for ourselves? Let's talk with Professor Priscilla Dunk-West and discuss goal setting. Look, Priscilla, this is what a year it's been. I've loved every second and every session that we've done. I've learned a lot. I think you are a phenomenal human being, and you know it to be true. And,
stop it!
Oh, stop it! But it's true. You've talked me back off the ledge of late capitalism in 2025 more than I can express. But to finish this year, I did want to talk about, goal setting. Everyone does, New Year's resolutions, and of course they all don't last and stuff. But I'm a big believer in goals and goal setting, because if you don't set a goal, then you just sort of wander through life and go, yeah, nah. And you're on Twitter and you go, oh, isn't this exciting? This is the end of the world. If we have some goals, then I think at least we're facing the table and walking forward. So how do you manage sort of the vagaries of daily life and the busyness, the intensity of daily life, and develop goals for a year, for next year, but also develop goals for, say, what you're going to do today and what you're going to do this week? How do you manage the short term but the big picture as well?
It's tricky, and I get the busyness because there's a lot of, administration that we are involved with when we're academics, right? There's administration, and that's sometimes the busy work that is invisible, and we've talked about that before.
Yeah.
I think in terms of goals, and I think back to my practice kind of days and working with young people and thinking about some particular work that I did with young people and around, imagining futures. So imagining kind of futures. What kind of future do you want, or where do you want to be? And the problem with our society is that some people go through life not seeing what is possible. And so if you don't know or understand what's out there, you can't set those goals, or your goals are going to be very narrow. And so some of that work involves understanding the landscape and what's possible. And you can do that different ways. You can have conversations with people. You can look up people's profiles and see where they've published or what they've done.
Nice.
You can reflect on your own kind of journey. You can look at some terrible experiences you've had with academics and think, I never want to be like that. And that might help you set goals.
Nice.
So I do think you need to set the goals in a sense, understanding the landscape, so what's possible. And if you've seen someone do something amazing but it's not the most common thing to do, you can still do that thing. Just create your own job in some ways. And so it doesn't mean that you only have to do what other people do, but it means that you can imagine what kind of work you want to be involved in, or where you want to be known in, or an area that you think needs more research, or something that you have a contribution around your unique perspective or your lived experience, and think about what you want to do in that space and what excites you and what's missing and those sorts of things. So I think it's a very complex thing to do, to set goals, and I think you need that literacy in terms of what's possible. You need to understand yourself and what gets you going, what excites you, and then the sort of relatively simple task of setting a goal. So that's the kind of nuts and bolts in terms of what do I want to do. And it could be setting a goal in the longer term and then stepping it back. How do I get there?
Oh, this is brilliant.
It's a very long-winded answer.
No, it's a great answer, and it dovetails very strangely with some of the very weird conversations. I know this will come as a surprise to you. The weird conversations we had through the whiteboard soiree this particular year, where suddenly it became about mattering maps. That before one does one's whiteboard and does the research plan, at the end of your life, what is going to matter to you? What is going to have meaning? So what you've just said there is, as again, step that back from the mattering map at the end. Unbelievable. And of course, I'm going to ask you the question because this is something I desperately need. How do you demarcate, separate between the urgent and the important? So as we move through our careers, I've got a sense that we just get endlessly crowded by the urgent, and we're sort of fighting our way, and I'm the person doing it, sort of I'm fighting with a big knife in my arms, trying to fight through to the important. How do you do that? Get rid of the urgent and focus on the important.
I think as I get older, I think I do more of this, a bit at a time. So a bit every day. So, you know, if you want to write an article about something, or you want to, you know, make some contribution, or you want to, you know, produce a book or think about a book or get a book contract or something, whatever it is, a little bit a day, because you shouldn't be consumed with urgent things for your entire day. And that little bit a day could be waiting in line to get a coffee and thinking about it. Or it could be on your commute listening to a podcast that dovetails in with, you know, the interest area or the area that you want to develop. So sort of setting aside moments in the day to devote to whatever it is that you want to do, because there are things that are urgent, and there are things that we have to put down everything and focus on one particular thing. But also, I think, you know, the what's that saying about how do you eat an elephant? You know, that
a bite at a time.
Yes. And so, being able to do something every day, I think, leads you into something bigger.
Yeah, I think that's crucial, and it dovetails again into the doctoral research too, that the students who finish quickly touch their thesis every day. They don't do 6 hours, but they touch it. And I think if you're writing a book, you need to touch it every day. And you know, so many people have requested this particular session of us. You ask Priscilla about goal setting. Tara, you must ask Priscilla about goal setting. And the shared feeling, I think, from these wonderful colleagues, hi Doug, is that we don't control a lot of our lives or our time. So how can we get some autonomy back, Priscilla? How can we, you know, at least a bit of the time every day, a bit of the clock that is ours?
That it's a really tricky one, that one, because, you know, there are some people for whom academia is them doing themselves. They're practicing what they love. They think about their scholarly work as being very connected to themselves, and so they don't need that separation between work and home life. For other people, though, they need that bracketing off of the work day, and there are lots of practical things that people can do to separate the two, including on your commute away from the workplace, imagining letting go of all of the work stuff. You know, some people think about their exhaust, or, you know, the wind going past as sort of brushing away as they geographically get more further from their workplace.
Can I say you're classy, though? Can I say you're classy? How I used to do that is that you were so posh, Priscilla. How I used to do that is on the way home I used to listen to AC/DC. And so
there you go.
I used to just associate Back in Black with TNT.
Yes.
Yeah. So sorry. Please continue with your classier rendering.
A great idea. But for people who work from home, that can be more difficult, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Sometimes get changing your clothes. You know, it's all the role change stuff, I guess. But I acknowledge it really is difficult to feel that you're in control when something is bleeding into an area that you don't want it to bleed into. And, you know, the thing about, you know, turning your phone off or taking email off your phone, disconnecting, all of that stuff, which we all know and all could probably struggle with doing. So I think the trick is to recognise when it's impacting you
Ooh.
So are you constantly thinking about work? Are you not able to sleep? Is it stressing you out? Do you feel distressed? That's a time that you've got to probably do something about it. For other people, though, they enjoy, the work is, is the kind of work that they might enjoy doing on a weekend, writing a book, for example. And so, different people have different needs, I think, around that.
So emotional proxies, monitor the behaviours, the emotional highs and lows to see how you're tracking. I think that's brilliant. And of course, last one for our year, and it's been a beautiful year that I've shared with you. I can't think of this year without you. Actually, you've been a fantastic companion walking through life. But work can take over our lives, and for our final question, let's just talk about a strategy for our families, because the families of academics #suffer. The kids of academics so often suffer. How can that be bracketed out to enable other people's lives so they're not drowning with us?
Yeah, I think increasingly there's recognition in workplaces, in universities and in higher education that people do have caring responsibilities, and it's great to see increased policies that support people to work flexibly, and to, help manage their caring responsibilities with work responsibilities. So look at policies, I think. Most places have really, pretty good, mentioning the word flexible working or caring responsibilities. Most enterprise bargaining agreements mention that now. So have a look at the policies and then think about the practices in your work, but then also think about your own personal practices. So how do you separate family time from working time? And for me, I research from a lived experience lens, from an insider kind of researcher lens, and so I don't see it as so separate from myself. Academic work and research helps me understand my roles better, and so I've done work on positive post-separation parenting because I was going through that. Wow. And it helps me make sense of and inform my research lens. So the separation and the differentiation between those two identities, I think, sometimes, like I said before, sometimes doesn't make sense for people, but for other people they need that separation. I think booking things to look forward to, booking time off and then just not engaging with work at all can be very restorative. Managing your diary really well. They're very boring suggestions and very basic, but I think, again, thinking about, are you feeling stressed or anxious or distressed about the blending together of family time and work time? And if so, that's when you've got to do something about it, and preferably before you have those feelings. But having a bit of a stock take, is this a problem for me, and then what can I do to look at this, and do better in this space and be better to myself.
What a way to end. Priscilla, thank you so much for this year. Thank you for your time, and I'm going to do a stock take with myself. I'm going to have a good hard talking to myself and do a stock take and work out what needs to be discounted immediately. Priscilla, thank you, my love. You are a legendary human being. Thank you for everything.